So in order to raise everybody's spirits, I thought I would do a video on Catford. Where is Catford? Well, it's a district in southeast London, in the London borough of Lewisham. Catford is in fact the administrative centre of Lewisham, and that means that Lewisham Council is headquartered there. So, a very important place in the Lewisham tapestry. So I live relatively near Catford, and I didn't know until the other day that there's a river that runs through it called the Ravensbourne. So I was actually going to go with my friend to Halfords in order to purchase some materials to make a bunker in my back garden to protect us against the apocalypse, just in case. So yeah, we were thinking like a hammer, a bit of tarpaulin, nails and things like that. However, when we met up, we decided to forget that idea and just take a walk down this river that runs through Catford, and very picturesque it is too. So the river is actually called the River Ravensbourne. Raven obviously meaning raven, and bourne in Old English meant river or stream. Actually, it was more like stream. And Catford comes from cat plus ford, where ford is obviously related to fjord in Scandinavian languages, which means body of water, and the cat part is presumed either to come from cattle or wild cats. So yeah, it was the ford or the river where either cattle used to cross or wild cats used to use as their crossing. So I thought that was kind of cute. There are a couple of really nice things in Catford, which I'll just tell you about now. So firstly, there's the Broadway Theatre. So the Broadway Theatre is an Art Deco building next to the Town Hall. And for those of you who don't know, Art Deco stands for the French arts décoratifs, meaning the decorative arts, basically. It's a visual style of architecture that started in Paris in around 1910, and then it really kind of flourished and came to prominence in the 20s and 30s. The whole style is referred to generally as Deco or Art Deco, and it's a style that applies to buildings, paintings, furniture, you name it, you can get it in Deco. I like this quote on Art Deco actually from an Art Deco interior designer called Paul Fuller. It kind of refers to the fact that the style is somewhat ornamental, flouncy, slightly superfluous to functional or general requirements. Man is never content with the indispensable, and that the superfluous is always needed. If not, we'd have to get rid of music, flowers and perfumes. Christ the Redeemer, an Art Deco statue in Rio de Janeiro, is obviously a really good example of the Art Deco style in sculpture. Some of my favourite buildings in the world are Art Deco. You've got the Chrysler building in New York, Empire State Building, and in Catford you've got the Broadway Theatre. So Catford waving the flag for Art Deco even today. So the Art Deco building, the Broadway Theatre, which by the way is at the moment running a panto called Dick Whittington and His Catford Cat, was opened in 1932. It's now a Grade 2 listed building. Grade listed buildings, by the way, are usually subject to special protection owing to beauty and age. As the centre of administration for Lewisham, the Lewisham Town Hall is also in Catford. The Lewisham Council is headquartered there. This building is also a Grade 2 listed building and is an Art Deco gem. So from Art Deco architecture to Brutalist architecture. So Art Deco is kind of like decorative and detailed in nature, whereas the Brutalist style showcases the raw materials used to make the building and is typically minimalist and somewhat brooding in style, so it's simplified and functional. The Barbican in central London is a really good example of Brutalist architecture, and the Trellick Tower. Eros House is a nice example in Catford. It's not 100% clear to me what the purpose of Eros House is today, but it was originally reported that Eros House replaced Eros Theatre, and it was designed by architect Owen Luder and is typical of his style. Note the freestanding stair tower next to the building, a bit like Trellick Tower. The design was intended to be the Barbican of the South. Not much rivals the Barbican for me in terms of a really beautiful example of Brutalist architecture. But there we have it. Architecture critic Ian Nairn praised Eros House as the gaunt honesty of those projecting concrete frames carrying boxed out bow windows persists. It is not done at you and transforms the surroundings instead of despising them. This most craggy and uncompromising of London buildings turns out to be full of firm gentleness. And who doesn't like something firm and gentle? Methinks Ian Nairn might be South London proud. Turns out he's actually from Bedford. I find his defence of the Eros building somewhat over the top. Very endearing, but somewhat over the top. Maybe it was just very fashionable at the time, or he was looking for clickbait. Ian Douglas Nairn, August 1930 to August 83, was a British architectural critic who coined the word subtopia to describe drab suburbs that look identical through unimaginative urban planning. Must have been really taken with Eros House and its Brutalist design, because let's face it, Catford would have been something of a suburb and probably is something of a suburb today, even though London's obviously got much larger over the years. So yeah, maybe he thought it was a real improvement on the Subtopia. Interesting fact, JG Ballard was influenced by Ian Nairn, and JG Ballard's the guy who obviously wrote High Rise, which is a personal favourite of mine. The novel actually has one of my favourite lines of all time, and it goes like this. Later, as he sat on his balcony eating the dog, Dr. Robert Lang reflected on the unusual events that had taken place within this huge apartment building during the previous 3 months, and also influenced another favourite person of mine, Jonathan Meades, who is an extremely dry and funny English actor and film writer. And it doesn't surprise me, Meades was a big commentator on culture and architecture and suburban design. He says of himself, I do make myself be interested in places in a way that I don't make myself interested in people. La-di-da. Check out his documentaries. So we've gone Meades, Ballard, Nairn, Catford. Oh yeah, the Catford cat. How could I do a piece on Catford without mentioning the Catford cat? This certainly is a landmark to behold. It's a pretty unmistakable, gigantic black cat that sits above the entrance to Catford Centre with a Cheshire Cat-worthy grin. This guy has crouched over Catford since 1974. I actually wanted to film its face, but I didn't want to have my phone out for that long. I was also designed by Brutalist architect Owen Luder and Rodney Gordon. So, you know, clearly Owen Luder was going around, putting all of his inventions everywhere, including brutalist buildings, but also including really random cat structures. And it definitely has that kind of tongue-in-cheek and very kind of glamorous 70s vibe. Its tail kind of curls up behind it, and its paw is playfully over the F in Catford on the sign, so it's quite cute. So numerous attempts have actually been made to take it down over the years. In 2017, they were actually going to get rid of him, but an outcry from the Catford community rallied to defend it. Petitions were signed and the cat was saved. Meow. Meow. I myself am exceptionally fond of it, as strange as it is. The Catford Bridge Tavern is another heritage building close to the old dog track, also close to Halfords in case you're making an apocalypse bunker. It is mock Tudor in style and actually burnt down in March 2015, but they clearly built it again. Notable residents include Ben Elton, Harry Cooper, Japan, Joe Gomez, Alexander McQueen, Spike Milligan, Jem Karakan, and Chris Welch. And the list goes on, there's obviously more, but those are some particularly notable ones. And that concludes my journey through Catford. See, a simple walk through Catford on your way to Lidl will bring to light a treasure trove of architectural gems and amusing little landmarks.